When a mother holds her baby close for the first time and begins the journey of breastfeeding, it is often one of the most beautiful and intimate moments in life. But at the same time, many new mothers feel uncertain, overwhelmed, or even frustrated when things don't go exactly as they expected. Breastfeeding is natural, yes, but that doesn't always mean it's easy. Countless moms encounter obstacles along the way, and very often those struggles come from a few common mistakes that can be avoided with the right guidance. Today, we're going to talk about 5 of the most common mistakes mothers make while breastfeeding, and more importantly, how to prevent or fix them so that both mother and baby can thrive. Let's start with the first mistake: assuming breastfeeding will always come naturally without practice. Many moms picture themselves simply holding their baby and everything just works. But in reality, breastfeeding is a learned skill for both mother and baby. Babies are born with the instinct to suck, but finding the right latch and position often takes time and patience. When mothers expect it to be effortless from the very beginning, frustration quickly builds if the baby doesn't latch properly. This can lead to sore nipples, a crying infant, and a discouraged mom who starts questioning her ability to breastfeed. The truth is, almost every breastfeeding relationship has a learning curve. With support, whether from a lactation consultant, a nurse, or even experienced moms, these early struggles can be overcome. Patience and practice are key. The second mistake is overlooking the importance of positioning and latch. A poor latch is perhaps the number one reason breastfeeding becomes painful or ineffective. If the baby is only sucking on the nipple instead of taking in a large portion of the areola, not only will milk transfer be less efficient, but the mother will likely develop cracks, pain, or even infections like mastitis. Good positioning means bringing the baby's whole body close, tummy to tummy with the mother, and waiting for the baby to open wide before guiding them onto the breast. It may sound simple, but small adjustments in angle, support, and comfort can make a world of difference. Many moms find that once the latch is corrected, the pain disappears and feeding sessions become more peaceful. The third mistake many mothers make is watching the clock instead of watching the baby. Some parents believe they should breastfeed for a strict amount of time on each side or follow a rigid schedule. While routines can be helpful, breastfeeding works best when guided by the baby's hunger cues rather than the clock. Every baby is different, and so is every feeding. Some feedings are long and leisurely, others are short but effective. Limiting feeding time or delaying a feed because it is not the right time yet can interfere with milk supply and leave the baby unsatisfied. On the other hand, feeding on demand, whenever the baby shows early hunger cues like rooting, stirring, or sucking on their hands, helps ensure the baby gets enough milk and supports a healthy supply for the mother. Flexibility and responsiveness go a long way in building a strong breastfeeding relationship. The fourth mistake is introducing formula or bottles too early, without a clear medical reason. Now, it's important to acknowledge that some mothers truly need to supplement, whether for medical, personal, or practical reasons. But often, formula or bottles are introduced simply because a mother doubts her supply, or because she is told her baby seems hungry, when in fact frequent feeding is completely normal in the early weeks. Early supplementation can sometimes interfere with the baby's desire to breastfeed, since bottle feeding requires a different sucking technique and often delivers milk faster with less effort. This may lead to what's called nipple confusion, or even reduced milk supply, since breastfeeding works on the principle of supply and demand. Of course, when supplementation is medically necessary, it can be a lifesaver. But before turning to formula or bottles in the first weeks, seeking support to evaluate latch, positioning, and feeding frequency can help preserve the breastfeeding relationship. And finally, the fifth mistake, neglecting self-care and support for the mother. Breastfeeding takes energy, hydration, rest, and emotional well-being. Too many mothers focus entirely on their baby's needs and forget their own. Skipping meals, drinking too little water, or enduring stress without support can all affect milk supply and overall health. Just as important, mothers who feel isolated or pressured are more likely to give up on breastfeeding earlier than they planned. Surrounding yourself with encouragement, whether from a partner, family, friends, or professional groups, can make an enormous difference. A well-supported, well-nourished mother is more likely to enjoy breastfeeding and sustain it successfully. So let's take a moment to reflect. Breastfeeding is not about perfection. It is about connection, nourishment, and growth for both mother and child. Mistakes like assuming it should be effortless, overlooking latch and position, watching the clock instead of the baby, introducing bottles too early, or forgetting self-care are incredibly common, but they are not the end of the story. With knowledge, patience, and support, each of these challenges can be overcome. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like, share it with another mom who might benefit, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more supportive content on your parenting journey. And in the next video, I'll share natural ways to boost milk supply after birth, a topic many mothers are curious about. I'll see you there.